Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Izio from Soul Language and Soul to Business, and this is conversations with really cool people doing really cool things. Such a mouthful. But I'm here with Rachel Alexander, who I adore, who's a really cool person doing really cool things. And you could check her bio in the link, blah, blah, blah. That's not important. What's important is what Rachel does and bees in the world. So, Rachel, you, among other things you do this thing called constellations. And I think a lot of people don't know about that. And I think a lot of people should know about it. It's kind of like soul language where people go, "Oh, that's really cool, but I've never heard of this before." It's
Mhm.
a really cool thing. So can you give us a little basis about what it's called family constellations and what is it about and how does it work and why do we want it? Lots of questions for you, Rachel.
Oh, yay, I love questions. Family constellations is the original name for a therapeutic type of modality that was innovated by a man named Bert Hellinger, who was a reverend and also learned a lot from indigenous tribes, specifically the Zulu tribe, about rituals and family legacy and the importance of connecting with and understanding family gifts and burdens and being able to, through ritual, talk to the family lineage and find out where there had been dysfunctional disconnections and see how we can, through witnessing and ritual, reconnect things. Because one of the fundamentals of constellations is that love is supposed to flow from the elders to the youngers. And so many of us are parentified children, right? Whose parents had traumas and problems and whatever. And so we didn't have a wellspring behind us. We were born and out of our like soul and energy are like, oh, my parents aren't okay and I love them and I need them. So I'm gonna love upwards, which isn't to say you shouldn't love your family, but
But
the
it shouldn't be your responsibility to take care
yeah.
of your parents.
You are
Yeah.
not the source for them. They are supposed to be the source for you, and their parents were supposed to be the source for them. Family constellations is a way to help resolve how that flow has been interrupted. That's one way of talking about it.
No, I think that's a
Mhm.
beautiful way to talk about it. And in family constellations, you do it in most of the time in groups,
Mhm.
and other people stand in for family members or
Yes.
topics you want to discuss.
Yes. And it doesn't have to be a family, but it's the easiest way to talk about it. There's other systems, like the body is a system, for example. But yeah, in family constellations work, when you're doing group work, which is how it originated, you have other people attending the workshop who the client who's going to work on something selects from the group to stand in as a member of the family, as um, sometimes even an abstract concept, sometimes as like a country. And so, and the client often will have someone stand in as themselves, as a client representative. The people are not coached. This is not role play or acting or improv. It's just that whenever we gather to do this kind of healing work with a trained facilitator, there is something created that in constellations language we call the knowing field. KNOW, the knowing field. And that field informs everybody who's standing in as the different representatives what to focus on, how to turn, what to notice, what to emotion to feel or thing to want. Um, it's really remarkable. It's not
It's
channeling, but
no, it is really
mm,
remarkable. We did one with soul languages,
mhm,
and there i- there is this thing, right? Because we're all one and we're all
mhm,
individual. There is this thing. I love that, the knowing field. I love
mhm,
that, right?
mhm.
I call it that relationship field, and it was odd to and amazing to see somebody stand in as a matriarch patriarch who knew nothing about soul language and talk as the matriarch patriarch and everyone be like, oh my God, I
Mhm.
feel different. I feel wholeness and completeness. And I think there's something really needed and beautiful about true observation, right? Especially if you're not playing in that, but you're actually have someone else playing you, so to speak,
Mhm.
playing, standing in for you.
Mhm.
That's true observation without trying to make things go a certain way. And you get to see something from a new point of view,
Yeah.
you know?
It's a really amazing place to practice intuition as a representative, and it's a great place to practice like detachment as a client. What do can I just stand aside and listen to what this knowing field is telling me rather than trying to enforce my beliefs upon it.
Right. Make some use of it, use that left side of our brain to kind of go down to the smallest denominator so we can process it and we can be okay with it or whatever, you know? I
Hmm.
mean, I remember before I met, shortly after I met Warner, I did this practice where I went through all of my ex-boyfriends. There wasn't a lot, but right, but my ex-boyfriends, and I remember doing like having this observation with this ex-boyfriend who I was just gaga over.
Hmm.
And I was always under the impression that he didn't care a thing about me,
Mm.
right? And then in that kind of back and forth, um, I remembered how for my birthday he found the exact presents which actually were amazing presents, which said he did care, right?
Mm.
You
Hmm.
know, he just didn't care the way I wanted him to care, but that didn't mean he cared, right? And there was this great observation where I went, "Oh, look at that. That's a total new thing." And it really kind of broke something free. And then 2 months later, he emailed me about something over LinkedIn for someone else.
Hmm.
I was like, "Oh, can we talk?" And I had to go out on a client in like a half an hour, and I'm like, "Oh my God, please, whatever this is, make it all wrap up in 29 minutes." And at 28th minute, he's like, "Listen, I really wanted to apologize." And I went, "Oh, look,
There
thanks."
it is.
I'm like, "Okay, I'm good. Thanks. Bye. Never need to talk to you again." But right. But when, all relationships are internal and they're eternal, right? And when we really go in and we shift that internal, the the impact is huge.
Hmm. Yeah, one of the lines that I learned from my teacher, because a lot of times a constellation, not all the time, but a lot of times it will get to a point of resolution where all of the parties understand each other and they embrace maybe for the first time in decades. And there is a lot of love and understanding, and the person can sit there, the client might sit there and be like, this is not what my family looks like. And my teacher would say, when you look at your mother now, see her in this way. See her now being embraced by her own mother, which did not happen in her life, but you can see her now being supported by her extended family in a way she wasn't originally. Like you can allow there to be a new picture to form. And it's so wonderful in constellations work to actually physically see, tangibly experience those new pictures.
Yeah. And just because I'm curious, do you ever hear clients go, I had an interactive interaction with my mother and she acted totally different and I was surprised, or she acted in a certain way and of course I was neutral about it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear results like that. A lot of my work these days, because I call what I do a variation soul constellations, because I tend to be very focused on the relationship between the person and spirit and kind of personal responsibility. Um, but yeah, I get a lot of positive things all the time, and I absolutely have. Yeah, there was somebody just the other day who was saying, after our work that she just didn't take the bait
Mm.
with her mom because she knew a deeper truth, and so she was able to change the dynamic that they had.
Yeah, and when you do the soul constellation, I think this is what happened in the soul language one, right?
Mhm.
You know, what I find in my work, like our biggest conflict is with ourselves and of course what we call our higher power. And so
Mm.
in that soul constellation work, that unification gets to come back in.
Yeah.
And in my verbiage, then you really understand that the universe has your back, right?
Mhm.
Versus all of the maybe the religious or the,
Mhm.
beliefs of the family or whatever.
Yeah, that happened in a big way. The last constellations workshop I did was focus because I always pick a theme just because it's easier for people to opt into a
Yeah,
specific theme. The theme we just had was divine abundance and flow.
nice.
And there were a lot of constellations that we did that ended up featuring the universe as kind of, my blanket for some people might say God, spirit, whatever. The
Cupcake.
universe is, yeah. Yeah. Um, and it was a constellation with someone who was uh felt like she'd been doing all the right things, right? But she still wasn't getting the result she wanted. And there was something that she had just put so much energy and attention and work into, and she thought it was hers, and then it went to somebody else.
Mm,
And she wanted to understand, she wanted some resolution. And we did a constellation. We pull in her, we pull in the universe. I don't remember what else. And I see through what's happening. I'm like, oh, let's pull in mom and dad because a lot of people have
overlay
the
the
yeah, they think of the universe as maybe a punishing or disapproving or judgmental force like their parents. And when you see them represented side by side and how different they feel, you don't really make that mistake anymore. You're like, oh, very obviously, the universe is kind and non judgmental and is not invested the same way that mom and dad are, however much you care for your mom and dad. And that was helpful. But what was throwing a bunch of my attendees for a loop was that the universe was not actively benevolent. Like the universe was kind of like,
because that would mean that it has free will. It does not.
right. And they like that's the other thing when you're like when you're done with seeing the universe as a punishing mom or dad, then sometimes you'll be like the universe is some sort of gift giving,
Santa
benevolent,
Claus, guy on
yeah,
a
like
white horse. Yeah,
godmother kind of thing, fairy godmother. And it's no, like the universe was like, hey, yeah, I'm here
I
for
operate
you.
on you or your will.
I'm here
Direct
for you.
me.
Yeah. You tell me where we're going and I'll be there with you and I just have a bigger picture than what you have because she's like, "But I told the universe I wanted this in this way." No, 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 no. And the universe is like, "This is just not how it works out." And I'm still not opposed to you and I still am here for you. So like 4 or 5 of my participants told me separately that that was really even the one representing the universe. She was like, that was really different than how like it was weird for me to say and do these things when internally I was like, but that's not what I think the universe is like.
Interesting.
And so it was, really helpful, I think, for all the participants to experience the universe as being like sort of the glass breaking phenomenon of like, oh, that's like an image shatter.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is not mom and dad, but it is also not fairy godmother. It is a larger outpicturing with a bigger perspective of you, and it moves when you move.
Plato.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a really I hadn't realized how many people had this mistaken understanding of the universe. It's hard,
Yeah.
right? We don't
Yeah.
have another template for
Yeah. I mean, you're talking and
it.
like, and it maybe my mom's in the rut because she has aphasia and there's things, but constantly she goes, "You don't believe in God." And I go, "Of course I do, Mom. I talk about God all day long." Like, but now I have a new line. I don't believe in your God. I believe in God, but I don't believe in
Mm,
her God. And
mm,
that's why it's like, you don't believe in God? No, I do. Just not the one that, I went
mhm.
to CCD for, like,
Yeah.
I'm reading this great book, by the way. I'm going to recommend to everyone, Lilith. Read it.
Okay. About the from the Bible?
Yes.
Okay.
Fascinating.
Okay.
Really fun. Okay. So, because we could talk to each other all day, how do people get in touch with you? How do they get more of your goodness? And
Mm.
then I'll ask my last question.
Well, you can go to my website at
Alexandria.
rachelalexandria.com.
Yeah.
And my constellations events are on there under events, I believe, on the menu. And there's also different ways that I work with people, ranging from a single magic session to my ongoing guidance work. Yeah, just helping people, basically helping high performers clean up their secret messes, which are usually around family in some version or another. Um,
Yeah, I think higher achievers are really good at hiding that mess,
yeah, they have
stuffing it
to.
down, moving it forward. I would
Mhm,
call that warrior energy. And
mhm.
that will catch up with you and not in a good way.
Yeah, usually in your late 30s is really where the rubber starts meeting the road. Your body starts being not able to be the place where you shove everything, and you start realizing, oh, these things aren't going to change. That person isn't going to change. This is not working for me, and I have to deal with it somehow. So, um, and then I'm on Facebook and Instagram, you know, occasionally. I post stuff like I have an email newsletter. I send out an email once a week.
Yeah, and they're really sign up for that newsletter, everyone, because they're really good.
They
They're
are
really
really
good.
good. Thank you. I write them every week. They are just different little bits of soul medic wisdom because Jennifer nicknamed me the soul
You
medic.
are a soul medic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're just thoughts from my path. They're clarifying what I see in my clients, and just, things about boundaries and difficult conversations and how to work with yourself and et cetera, et cetera. So,
Yeah, that's one of the things I've noticed about you. You're really good at relationships, right?
mhm,
You're good at having relationships and not having to like every part of a person and
mhm,
still love them and still have those conversations where you could get deeper and have more intimacy. And those aren't easy. So everyone, that's a hint. If you're having trouble, that's the girl to see. But you
I'll
do.
teach you
You're
how to care without carrying.
yeah. Oh, that's nice. Nice
Mhm,
tagline.
mhm,
Um, but you're really, really good at that. And I think um that's a skill more of us need to have.
mhm,
So, my last question is, as what I would call a spiritual leader, what do you find what do you find most human about yourself?
What do I find most human about myself? I am a highly sensitive person, so all of my little finicky body needs are not ignorable. And my boyfriend and I are navigating them right now as he's just moved in with me. And there's just a lot of little things ranging from textures to tastes to smells, wanting things in a certain way. I've got a texture sensitivity. I'm coming to like I'm neurospicy. Um, so yeah, I think that's very human because I can step into the spirituality of everything and be like, none of this matters. But from a human being perspective, all of it matters a lot to me
Yeah,
and is almost impossible to ignore.
yeah. Sorry about my phone going off. Um, ah, so Warner just fully moved in after 9 years. Like fully. He's here,
What?
comes home at night, goes to like it's fully.
Wow.
And I was handing him his dinner plate. And he's like, okay, here's, do you have forks? I was like, no, I haven't gotten them. And he hands me a fork. I was like, I can't eat with that fork. Now, I say this all the time, but I think this finally registered. And he's like, why? I was like, it's a tiny fork. I don't like the way it feels. I go, I need that fork. And he's like, okay, freak. And I'm like, no, let's pause and feel the fork. And he's like, oh, yeah, I don't like this fork either. I was like, yeah, if it's like writing with the right pen, it feels in
Yes.
your hand good.
It matters.
It
Even Anne of Green
matters.
Gables would say to her paramour, "I can't write you a love letter because this pen is scratchy."
See?
Mhm.
No more scratchy pens.
Mhm.
I'm actually gonna throw out all the little forks today, I'm going for it. Although, we're missing all of the knives, we have 2 knives, I don't know where they've gone.
I mean, just Goodwill, my friend. There's so
I
much cutlery
know,
there. You just go and find some, or, IKEA,
I
Target.
know,
Just go
I
get some
know,
new
just
silverware.
go
It saves your life, man. Like I said, like they're
totally.
like never have enough spoons, like literal spoons. I know
Yeah,
that's a whole thing about whatever, but if physically you don't have enough spoons or
go
you
get
never
them.
have scissors in the right place, I am a fan of like spend the $12 and just get another pair of scissors. Spend $20 and just get a whole host of spoons.
I love that. I won't also drink out of a coffee out of a glass mug.
Yeah.
It's gross,
Yeah.
right?
I don't drink coffee, but sure.
Oh, you're just having a mocha and you don't drink coffee?
That's what I'm saying. They put coffee in my hot chocolate.
Oh, I didn't know that you didn't drink coffee.
I
Wait,
don't
so
drink
every time
coffee.
I see you drink something, because
It's
we're on the
either
phone a
chai
lot.
tea or hot chocolate.
Nice. All right.
I'm naturally caffeinated.
I'm gonna now cancel that coffee order I just did for you. I want
Ah,
to really thank you for playing with us today. You're freaking amazing. All of her bio and all of her links will be down below. Really, if she's throwing, you call it a work, oh, how cute. You call it a workshop or a session for the,
constellations workshops. Yeah,
okay,
next one will be in September.
okay.
Unless you're in San Diego, I'm doing it in person.
Ooh, don't miss it. It's amazing, and you'll walk away with your head going, poof. So
Yeah.
thank you so much.
Thanks, Jennifer.
You're welcome. All right, everyone. Bye for now.